All right, let's start out by saying Barak Tehawa, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rcha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson.
All right.
This is just pretty much various topics. I was trying to get a title for it, but it was kind of little. It was like couldn't really pinpoint it down to one particular topic, so I just decided to label it various topics through the Spirit. I was reading through Jeremiah, the 50th chapter, and another chapter, and wanted to just touch on some points in those chapters. So the Spirit, Yahweh Bashemel Shai willing, it'll be edifying and bring out some points in these chapters. Pretty much dealing with the demise, the downfall of America, aka Babylon the Great, the persecution somewhat of the nation of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, the filthy condition that we as a nation found ourselves in, based off of the worshiping of these idols, and it's covered in these chapters. So Lord's will, we're gonna get into it, and then a little bit of prophecy dealing with the missiles and how the Lord is coming to visit upon these he's gonna come visit these idols that have been set up. Now there are curses in the scriptures that were put upon the nation of Israel. And when you go to Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, one of the main curses outside of slavery, being brought to American slave ships, is the scattering of the nation of Israel throughout the four corners of the earth among all these different nations. Now, when you start at Deuteronomy 28:63, it says, "And it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught. And you shall be plucked from off the land, whether thou goest to possess it." And once this happened, it happened several times, but once it happened, during the time of the Assyrian, Babylonian, Medo-Persian, Greek, and Roman times, we really got messed up as a nation. But the final time when we actually got plucked out of that land was during the time of the Roman Empire, 70 AD. And ever since that time, Jake hasn't been back in their land. Now, you do have some Israelite communities that are down there that moved over there by an individual by the name of Ben Ami, and you have had Israelites that have gone over there to visit. But pretty much you're at the mercies of them gutter rats that are over there that are in control of that land. That's why they'll make you wear a yarmulke. You can't wear your own garments. You got to wear the shit they give you, because they have control over that land. And that is pursuant to biblical prophecy, as we just read in the law. And also when you read the book of Luke, the 21st chapter, many other chapters also, but Luke 21 and I believe it's 24. "And they," meaning the Israelites, "shall fall by the edge of the sword." When? During the time of 70 AD. "And shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem," meaning the land, "shall be trodden down of the Gentiles," the actual nations, "unto the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled," meaning unto the time when the Lord pretty much had enough of them and all the prophecies been fulfilled and they get kicked out of that land. So this scripture and this curse that the Lord put upon us has been fully fulfilled. And in the midst of all of these different lands, what happened was Deuteronomy 28:64, and the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Shai, shall scatter thee among all people. And that's what happened from the one end of the earth even unto the other. This is why now you have camps waking up, and you have brothers from all over the world, all different parts of Africa, Australia, Europe, Asia, Central, South America, the Caribbean islands, Mexico, Canada, all over the world, brothers are waking up to this truth. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And Jake literally worshiped these idols. But now today, when you get when you bring it up to date, it's talking about these different churches and philosophies that Jake is into. And these churches and these philosophies, and which is pretty much modern day idol worship, is what has destroyed us as a nation. And this is why we find ourselves in the condition that we're in, the low condition. But through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai, down in this low condition, the Lord saw fit and had mercy to open up our minds to understand who we are, and to understand that we have a better ending to our situation than where we're at right now. So when you go back to the book of Jeremiah, the 50th chapter, we're going to start here, and we're going to jump around. Matter of fact, you know what? No, I'll go, since we're dealing with the idols and in these different churches and these different religions, which is the modern day idol worship. They put a spirit on Jake. They put a conditioning. They put a mental, or they have a mental, what's the word I'm looking for? A mental impression on Jake's mind, to where, we want to go to college. You want to make a better life for yourself. You want to, you want to prosper. You want to be on top, because naturally, by default, we are a royal people. So we, a royalty is in our blood. This is why when Jake gets money, they spend it, and what do they spend it on? They spend it on luxury, either going out, nice cars, nice homes, and jewelry and, clothing and all that, because this is in our spirit to be that way, or be a royal people, but the problem is that we're here serving a punishment. And this is what Jake doesn't understand. We're here to serve a punishment. This is why no matter how big you make it in a society, eventually, before you end up, departing this earth, you for the most part, every Israelite that departs out of this earth, for the most part, is usually broke, from going from broke to having everything, and then to losing everything, because that is a part of the curse. Curse shall thou be when thou comest in, and curse shall thou be when thou goest out. So it says, so that wood and stone, that's all these different churches, these ideologies, these philosophies, this American dream. That's another form of idol worship, this American dream. And what it's done, pretty much, it has destroyed Jake, as a whole. So we're going to go to Ezekiel, the 20th chapter. We're going to start at the 23rd verse, and we're going to read a little into this, because this is good, because this goes back into Egypt, and it pretty much brings it up to modern times. So the Lord is making a comparison and a point dealing with when the Lord came to the nation of Israel and brought them out of captivity under the hand of Pharaoh and the Egyptians. When he brought us into the wilderness, our forefathers just basically started worshiping idols and pissing the Lord off, and he wanted to smoke them. He wanted to just take everybody out and just start everything all over again with Moses. But, the man Moses spoke to the Lord, said, well, Lord, if you do that, these nations are going to say that the Lord, with his great power, brought all these people out of Egypt just to destroy them in the wilderness, and the Most High considered it, even though the Lord, he he's in control of everything, but for that moment, when Moses said what he said, the Most High considered it, because the Most High could have just did that. He could have just took all Israel out and just started all over again with Moses, because it all started out of one man, Abraham. Then it went to Isaac, and then went to Jacob, and out of Jacob, all those Israelites came out. And Moses, being an Israelite, the Lord could have did it with Moses. And when you go deep into it, Moses is Jacob. If you can receive it. But let's start Ezekiel 20. Let's start at 21. It says, notwithstanding the children rebelled against me, they walked not in my statutes, neither kept my judgments to do them, which if a man do, he shall even live in them. They polluted my Sabbaths. Then I said I would pour out my fury upon them to accomplish my anger against them in the wilderness. Nevertheless, I withdrew mine hand and wrought for my name's sake, because it's all about the upliftment of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. The scriptures say that in that day alone, the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai will be exalted. That it should not be polluted in the sight of the heathen. Why? Because the Lord put his name upon us, and by him putting his name upon us, meaning he's our power. And when we became polluted with them idols, his name would be, thrown in there, Oh, those are the Israelites, God is the most, So the Lord said, in whose sight I brought them forth. So the Lord said, look, man, and he said that. He said, my name is polluted among the nations through you, through you Israelites. I believe that's Ezekiel, the 36th chapter. It says, I lifted up mine hand unto them also in the wilderness, that I would scatter them among the heathen. And this goes back to when the Lord told Moses to write it down in the book and to present it to Israel. And the Lord is referring back to the witness. What is the witness? The law, statutes, and commandments. That was the witness against us. It says, and dispersed them through the countries. And this happened. It says, because they had not executed my judgments, but had despised my statutes and had polluted my Sabbaths, and their eyes their eyes were after their father's idols. And it's true, because when Jay came out of Egypt, what do you think they were worshiping? They were worshiping the calf, the golden calf. And to prove that they were worshiping that, when Aaron created the so-called God that brought Israel out of Egypt so they can worship it, what did he create? A calf, a golden calf, because that went back to what Jake was doing in Egypt. Then when Jeroboam wanted to keep the 10 tribes with him, what did he do? He made 2 golden calves, because that was one of the main idols that Jake was worshiping back in Egypt. It says, wherefore I gave them also statutes that were not good, and judgments whereby they should not live. And this is why the curses came upon us. And I polluted them in their own gifts. So we became polluted as a people. And this is why Yahweh had to come and clean us up. It says, in that they caused to pass through the fire all that opened of the womb, that I might make them desolate, to the end that they might know that I am the Lord Yahweh. Therefore, son of man, speak unto the house of Israel, and say unto them, thus saith the Lord power, yet in this your fathers have blasphemed me, and that they have committed a trespass against me. Why? Because the Lord gave us the law, statutes, and commandments, which became the bond between our marriage. That was a contract. The marriage, even today, when you so-called get married, you have what? A marriage certificate or a marriage license, which is a witness that these 2 individuals were joined together in marriage. So the law, statutes, and commandments is the contract or the license or the agreement that the Most High made with us, and it's a witness against us, or to us, that the Lord chose us, and is married to us, right? It says, for when I had brought them into the land, for the which I lifted up my hand to give it to them, then they saw every high hill and all the thick trees, and they offered their sacrifices, and there they presented the provocation. And when they went to these different groves and all, this is why the scripture said, you're not supposed to build an altar near a grove. So when they did all of that, that provoked the Most High to jealousy. Remember, you had the image of jealousy. And the image of jealousy is pretty much any of those idols that Jake bows down to outside of the Most High. If you're bound to anything But Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, the Lord gets angry. He gets jealous. He gets furious. It says, and there they presented the provocation of their offering. There also they made their sweet savor and poured out their drink offerings. And all these things that they were offering to these idols were what? Were things that Yahweh Bashem Yahushai gave to us. You know, the land and the fruits and the animals and and the wine and all that. You know, the vines and the grapes. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai gave us all of that. And what did Jake do? They took the same thing that the Lord gave them and spent it on the idols. It's just like if you have a woman, right, and you give this woman everything. You go to work, you bust your ass at the job, and you give her everything. You give her money, you give her clothing, you give her cars, you give her homes, everything, and then she turns around and takes that money or takes whatever you gave her and offers or gives it to another man that she's dealing with on the side. That's how the Most High feels. And pretty much when you look at it in that context, when you're dealing with a woman and a woman turns around and cheats on you after you've done everything for her, and the way you feel, the way that makes you feel, well, that's how the Most High feels about us when we went off and started worshiping these different idols. And this is why that happens, so that the Lord can teach us a lesson, how it feels. This is how I feel. Just so you know, this is how I feel when you did what you did. And that don't feel good. You hear that you have a woman and you're thinking about another man climbing up on top of her. You get furious, you get angry, you get pissed off. This is why you had a law on jealousy. This is why it says jealousy is the rage of a man. So in essence, when you think of it that way, then you know how the Most High feels when we went into these different philosophies, worship these different idols and all of that, and the customs of these other nations. Here it is. He gave us a set of laws that's perfect. Yet, we have to go seek other laws. Just like you give this woman everything, but she still got to seek outside of the relationship, for more. It said, then I said unto them, what is the high place whereunto you go? And the name thereof is called Bama unto this day. Now, Bama in the Hebrew means beast, but I didn't look it up in this. I didn't look it up, but I know the Hebrew word Bama is normally beast, but I don't know if it's going to be the same. Let me see, H1117 Bama, which is the high place, a place of pastime, place of idolatrous worship. Or the term Bama with a high at the end is beast, but this is, I guess this is going into something else. It's going into a high place. All right, so I guess that's a different word. All right, so going back, it says, and the name thereof is called Bama unto this day. Wherefore say unto the house of Israel, thus saith the Lord power, are ye polluted after the manner of your fathers? See, how did the fathers get polluted? By the worshiping of idols. When you go to the law, when you go to the history in the book of 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, it tells you that Jake was worshiping these idols secretly. And that's what got us kicked out of the land. It's just that simple. It said, and why? Because we became polluted. Here it is. The Lord cleaned us up, and we became polluted by worshiping these idols. So the Lord kicked us back out, because that was the stipulation. He said, look, these nations that are here, make sure that you don't do after their customs, because the same thing that they're doing is what got them kicked out of that land. So basically, if you do the same thing, what you think is going to happen? You're going to get kicked out of that land too. And commit ye whoredom after their abominations. So you become unclean by doing it. For when you offer your gifts, when you make your sons to pass through the fire, you pollute yourselves with all your idols. And guess what? You had back then, you had a group of elders and men that would lead Jake astray. Matter of fact, let's go real quick to Ezekiel. I'm not sure the exact verse, so just bear with me 1 second. I want to just go straight to the point. All right, here we go. We could just deal with this right here. Ezekiel 89. And he said unto me, go in and behold the wicked abominations that they do here. So I went in and saw, and behold, every form of creeping things and abominable beasts and all the idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall round about. And just bear with me 1 second. I just want to take a look. There was a scripture that I had went to years ago. No, that's not it. Okay. Salakia brothers, just bear with me 1 second. All right, so let's go back and read that again. It says, so I went in and saw, and behold, every form of creeping thing and abominable beast, and all the idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall round about. And there stood before them 70 men of the ancients of the house of Israel. And in the midst of them stood Jaazaniah, the son of Shaphan, with every man his censer in his hand, and a thick cloud of incense went up. Then said he unto me, Son of man, hast thou seen what the ancients of the house of Israel do in the dark, every man in the chambers of his imagery? For they say, the Lord seeth us not, and the Lord hath forsaken the earth. So you had even leaders among the nation of Israel that were causing them to go astray. And this is why it's written in the book of Isaiah, the 9th chapter, in the 16th verse. It says, for the leaders of this people cause them to err, and they that are led of them are destroyed. You see? So this is why, these different false prophets, even especially, I mean, the ones in the churches too, but especially the ones that call themselves Israelites that are leading Jake astray, the Lord got a special death for them guys, man. Special death. So going back to Ezekiel 20 and 31, we got 2 more verses, and that'll be it. For when you offer your gifts, when you make your sons to pass through the fire, you pollute yourselves with all your idols, even unto this day. And shall I be inquired of you, by you, O house of Israel? As I live, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Shai, I will not be inquired of by you. And that which cometh into your mind shall not be at all. Now this goes into, your dreams and aspirations, this philosophy or this thought that's pushed into the mind of Jacob, this prosperity that they teach in these churches, this idol worship, so it says, and that which cometh into your mind shall not be at all. All your dreams and goals and all that is not going to come, because we're fast approaching what's called the time of Jacob's trouble. We're fast approaching the mark of the beast, which is the microchip being made mandatory, because it's already out there, being made mandatory. We're fast approaching into the time when these things happen. Right after that, you got what? World War III. And then the end is going to come. So all this madness that you're thinking in your mind in these different churches and these pastors and these deacons and all that are pushing that prosperity doctrine is going to come to nothing, because the foundation of it is from what? From these different churches, which go back to what? Go back to the curse of serving wood and stone, which is these idols. So all of that stuff is going to be done away with, because even upon these idols, there's going to be a visitation. Even though they can't move, they can't talk, they can't see, they can't hear, none of that, the Lord is still going to visit them. He's going to destroy these different idols, because this has been the bane of Israel's it's been the bane of Israel's existence, these different idols, and leading you further and further away from Yahweh Bashem Shai, Mormonism and Jehovah's Witness and Islam and the Baptist Church and the Methodist Church and this church and that church and the Roman Catholic Church, so on and so forth. And it here it is, 2019, and the year of Karagma, and you still have Israelites, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, the darker Israelites, dark brown brothers out there, right, that are still going and joining the Mormon church. When the Mormon church teaches in their teachings that to have dark skin is a curse. Amazing. This is a good scripture the brother put. GMS inquire early. Zephaniah 2:11. The Lord will be terrible unto them, for he will famish all the gods of the earth, which is all these different idols, and men shall worship him, everyone from his place, even all the isles of the heathen. You know, because you're going to have Israelites coming out of all different walks of life that are going to be joined to the Lord. But in the kingdom, when the kingdom is established, even the nations are going to be forced to serve Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. So going back, it says, and that which cometh into your mind shall not be at all. So all your dreams and aspirations going to be out the window. That you say, we will be as the heathen, as the families of the countries to serve wood and stone. So they're going to serve in these churches and have their so-called prosperity doctrine. The Lord said that ain't going to happen because the Lord is going to make a visitation. Matter of fact, this is a good time to segue into Jeremiah chapter 50. The word of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai spake against Babylon. Let me read that again. The word that Yahweh Bashem Yahushai spake against Babylon and against the land of the Chaldeans by Jeremiah the prophet. Now this Babylon is talking about America, Babylon the Great. Now when you read through Jeremiah 50 and 51, there are a couple of points where it speaks about the Assyrians and it speaks about the Nebuchadnezzar. But for the most part, these prophecies here apply to here in America because America, which is Babylon the Great, is the place where the Lord is going to totally destroy this land. If you do your research on the history, when you go back to the ancient Babylonian Empire, the ancient Babylonian Empire was not taken down by fire. It wasn't a great war that happened, you know, that took them down. You know, there was no big fire that took them down, no flood, none of that. It was one night, Belshazzar, you know, he was having a feast with his lords, you know, and with his with their women, and he went and had the vessels of the Lord brought to them, the golden vessels, so they can drink out of them. They desecrated the Lord's vessels and all that, and that's when the handwriting came upon the wall. Many tekel ufarsin. You have been weighed, you have been found wanton, you know, and you're pretty much that's where you get the writing is on the wall. And the kingdom was translated from the Babylonians at that moment, at that night, to Darius the Mede. He's the one that took them down. There was no big war that happened. You know, hold on one second. All right, so ancient Babylon was not destroyed in any other form, but just pretty much it was just handed over to Darius the Mede. And when you read through here, it tells you how this particular Babylon will be destroyed. You know, so let's read on. It says, "Declare ye among the nations and publish and set up a standard." And what is the standard that is being set up? The scriptures, the Bible. And a lot of people are getting upset with that. All we're doing is teaching the Bible. We ain't doing nothing else extra. We ain't going to no gun range. We ain't buying no grenades. We ain't buying no weapons, rifle. We ain't doing none of that. We're not going to practice. We ain't doing nothing but teaching the Bible, teaching what's written in the scriptures, and it's a problem. You know, because these devils are getting nervous. You know why they're getting nervous? Because they're guilty. Their conscience is guilty. You know, they know that what they've done is fucked up shit. You know, their forefathers have done, and which is really them. This is why their conscience is convicting them. Because they are the sons, which really they are the people that actually did all of that, you know, raping, robbing, murdering, lynching, you know, have had the Judah, Benjamin, Levi, mainly Judah, working for free. Same thing they did to Ephraim and Manasseh, Gad, you know, all the different tribes. They made the tribes work for free in slavery. So their spirit, they're guilty. You know, and this is why it says, before I read that, let's go to, I believe that's Ecclesiasticus 41, if I'm not mistaken. Just bear with me 1 second so I can find it. Yep, 41 and 7. Let's go to, matter of fact, I just click right here, 41 and 7. It says, the children will complain of an ungodly father. And this is what these devils are doing. They're complaining of an ungodly father because the shit that the forefathers have done is still a reflection upon them today, you know, and they're bearing the reproach of their forefathers, you know. So what some of them are doing, they're just flipping out, you know, going crazy. Some of them are trying to so-called apologize. They're trying to make things right. They always smile in your face, you know. They so-called treat you good, blase, blase. Job 20 and 10, his children shall seek to please the poor, and his hands shall restore their goods, because they're seeking to please the poor in some cases, but eventually they're going to restore all our goods, bottom line. So it says the children will complain of an ungodly father, because the children shall be reproached for his sake. So pretty much the shame of America is being put on their children, which really, when you look into it spiritually and you understand about reincarnation in the Bible, is really those are the same spirits that were here before that committed those crimes. This is why they're so guilty. This is why they're so angry, you know. And like we said, Esau is a carnal man. So Esau is not a spiritual man. Esau does not know how to reason. The only thing Esau knows is deception and the sword, and that's it. That's his two greatest gifts. Number one, the sword. Number two, deception. If he can't get you with either one of those, you know, he's going to resort to his ace in the hole, which is what? Which is that sword. So if he can't get you with the deception, he's going to come with the sword. And this is why they get physical, because they can't deal spiritually, because that wasn't given to them. So pretty much they're being reproached right now for his sake, for the things that their forefathers have done. And they're guilty, and they're feeling the fire. They're feeling the verbal, spiritual fire. They're feeling it, you know, and they're starting to get nervous. They're starting to get angry. They're starting to get agitated. They want the government to do something about us, you know. And all we're doing is teaching the Bible, man. We ain't doing nothing else but teaching the Bible. That's it. All right, so Revelation 11:11. And after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from the Most High entered into them. The 3 days and a half represent the time period, you know, of the bulk of the slaves being brought here. Because once Judah was brought here, you know, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi were brought here, but mainly Judah being brought up here to the north, you know, or actually to so-called America, and served their captivity, the 350 years. That's when the spirit of life started entering into them, because Judah was raised up first. Because in the law, or in the prophecy, it said that the Lord shall raise the tents of Judah first, so that the rest of the tribes can magnify themselves against them. This is why for a long period of time it was just Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, you know, that were being raised up to teach this truth, and the truth was brought to them. And then you had a sprinkle here and there of Ephraim and Manasseh, you know, some of the other tribes, but mainly it was Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Then eventually the rest of the tribes came in. So after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from the Most High entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, because no longer were they the walking mats, welcome mats. They started to find out, wait a minute, we've been on the bottom all this time, but we really the royalty, we're the Israelites, we're royalty, you know. So they stood up on their feet. And when you stand up on your feet, you're doing what? You're coming in boldness. Like it tells you in the book of Wisdom of Solomon, the 5th chapter. Then shall the man stand in great boldness before the face of them that have matter of fact, let me get that real quick. Get that real quick. We're in the right book. Let's read that. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5 and 1. Then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him. Because at one time they had what? Then they have a law called eyeballing or something along those lines, where Jake could not look Esau directly in the eye, and Esau would call our brother's boy Here it is, you had a grown-ass man. He was probably 60s, 70s. And here it is, you had a fucking teenager or 20-year-old calling him boy. You know how fucking demeaning that is? And you know that there were Jakes back there that wanted to fuck Esau up, but they know that their spirit was taken from them. Because when you try to jump up and defend, they'll take it out on other Jakes, or they'll grab that one boisterous Jake, that rough ass Jake, tie him down and then sodomize him, which was called buck breaking. So that anybody else that would try to dare jump up and do anything like that, that's what would await them. So on all levels, man, the Lord just broke us down completely. And Esau don't have a problem with that because he's a faggot by nature. He likes doing that shit. And made no account of his labor. So this is what was happening. So after 3 days and a half, those 350 years, they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. So they got nervous. And when you read on, it says, when they see it, meaning who? Esau, mainly Esau. And 2/3 of Israel too, they're gonna think like this because they've been fanning their hands and talking shit about us. But this is really dealing with Esau, because it's Jacob and Esau. That's the beef, chief. When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear, and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation, which goes into the chariots, so far beyond all that they look for. But the main, and it says, and they repenting and groaning for anguish of spirit shall say within themselves, this was he whom we had sometimes in derision and a proverb of reproach. We fools accounted his life madness and his end to be without honor. How is he numbered among the children of the Most High, and his lot is among the saints? And this is pretty much what they're saying now before the chariots come. And this is why there's great fear that fell upon them. And great fear fell upon them which saw them. Why? Because they are being reproached. Because they shall be reproached for his sake. They're being reproached for what their forefathers did, because they bought into that lie of that so-called white supremacy, or red Hebrew Edomite supremacy. Brothers been calling Esau red Hebrew Edomite. They bought into that so-called white supremacy, that supremacist spirit. So they just knew that they were the superior race, but they're nothing but the most inferior, basest race on the planet. Matter of fact, since we're on that, let's go to Job chapter 30 and start at 3. It says, for want and famine they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in former time, desolate and waste, who cut up mallows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat. They were driven forth from among men. Why were they driven forth from among men? Because they don't look right, and because they are deceptive, and because they lie, and because they are a bunch of thieves. They cried after them as after a thief. The thief cometh not but for to steal, to kill, and to destroy, to dwell in the cliffs of the valley. So when they were chased out, they went where? Into the cliffs of the valley. When you go into the history of the Caucasus Mountains, that was the lowest point that Esau was in, and that goes back to the curse that the Lord put on that individual, the serpent, just a man. It was an actual man, the serpent. That was that's a funny ass picture. The serpent was an actual man that had color back then, but the spirit that was in that man is the same spirit that's in the so-called white man today, these Edomites, these red Edomites, to dwell in the cliffs of the valley, in the caves of the earth, and in the rocks. And this is where they lived, because they were chased out, because they were like, nah, man, we ain't dealing with these devils no more. Because they came to a point where people, wait a minute, man, these motherfuckers, this is why that one professor, I believe it was, he said, he tried to reason and try to figure out the best solution, to deal with the situation of Esau, these so-called white people. And he said the only thing he could think of is exterminate them all. That would solve the problem. And eventually, after the 1,000 years of slavery, that's what's going to happen, because there's nothing else. Because this devil was created to be a destroyer. He was created to be to wreak havoc in the earth. He was created to do everything backwards. Everything backwards. They don't bring life; they bring death. And there's no way to change that. Can a leopard change his spots? and or the Ethiopian is skin, then may he do good that is accustomed to doing evil. So it says, among the bushes they braid, and when you look up the word braid, that's what donkeys do, because they weren't even able to talk. The Hebrew word H5101, nahak, to bray, cry out, scream for hunger, bray. Let's look up the word bray. The word bray, it says the loud, harsh cry of a donkey or mule. Utter bray. This is how they were communicating with each other, through animalistic sounds. And you watch certain movies like certain caveman movies, and they show you that. It says, among the bushes they brayed, under the nettles they were gathered together. And that when they made those movies were not an exaggeration. Those movies are actual movies or actual history that happened to Esau, and how they came to that low state. It says they were children of fools, yea, children of base men of no name. They were violent in the earth, meaning they were low. They were lower than low. All right. So that's when Israel stood upon their feet, it says great fear fell upon them which saw them. And how is the fear coming? It's coming through the words of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Because the men of the Lord are waking up and look, according to the Bible, you so-called white people are the Edomites, we're the Israelites. You put us in slavery. It says here that he that leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. The saints are the Israelites. If he that stealeth a man, or if it be found in his hand, shall surely be put to death. So you're in violation of all these laws. You touch the apple of the Most High's eye. So now you got to pay. See, and Esau's not equipped like that. He ain't built that way to deal with the scriptures like that. So what is his next step? To get carnal. This is why these devils been slapping Bibles out of brothers' hands. And, just as a suggestion to you brothers out there that's in the camps, don't let nobody get that close to the camp. You have the speaker and the reader. You have other men in the camp. Make sure that them people keep their distance. Don't just let them roll up like that. This is what happens. You let people roll up too close to the camp, and they'll start putting hands on brothers, do stupid shit. Just keep them at bay. Your brother step right there, step in front of the reader or the front of the speaker. And if they cross, you got the right to push back. As long as they don't put their hands on you, you're good. And that's what I'm gonna say. But if you can avoid any of that stuff, avoid it, because that's Esau sending, especially now, he's sending agents out there to start shit with brothers, to lock brothers up, to find a reason to lock brothers up and to set legislation to stop brothers from going out there, So, for the time being, that's what we got to do, go out there. So just be circumspect, don't let them devils get too close. Keep your eyes open, which brothers do, keep your eyes open on what's going on. Because these are the times we live in, and we live in those perilous times, and these devils are doing everything they can. They're sending agents up just because they're faggots like that, just because they can't debunk what we're teaching. They have to get carnal, physical. They have to do underhanded shit. They have to be slick, sly, cunning, devious, because this is the nature of the devil. They're low scum. So that's what they got. They got to do low scum shit. And that's a good scripture too. JMS inquired early. 1 Peter 5:8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. And the scriptures also say, yeah, that's a good one, brother Yahweh out there in Hawaii. Quest for Fire is a true depiction. Yep, that's a really good movie. And you brothers, the scriptures say we're not ignorant of Satan's devices. So keep your eyes open, keep your eyes peeled, for what's going on, because that's what these devils are doing. Hey, Shalom, KDC. I see you got back in, my brother. Finally found a way to unblock you. Shalom. And Salakia for that. All right. So, man, we didn't even get past verse 2, but let's go back to Jeremiah 50:2. I'm going to get ready to wrap it up. Get ready to go to work. Declare you among the nations and publish, and set up a standard. Publish and conceal not. Say Babylon is taken, Bel is confounded, Merodach is broken in pieces. Her idols are confounded. Her images are broken in pieces. So all of these different idols will be visited when the Lord comes back. It says for out of the, because this is what has caused Jake to go off, these different idols. So the Lord is going to destroy these devils. It says, for out of the north there cometh up a nation against her. Now this is talking about the so-called Russians that's going to be coming up against Babylon the Great, which is America, which shall make her land desolate. So the ancient Babylon is not desolate. If you were to go right now to ancient Babylon, you have buildings there, you have civilizations there, you have people living there. So that land is not desolate, it's not barren. But when the Lord gets finished with America, America truly is going to be a desolation, a wilderness, and none shall dwell therein. You still have people dwelling in ancient Babylon. This is how you know that this is not talking about ancient Babylon. This is talking about modern day Babylon, which is America, which is known as either the daughter of Babylon or Babylon the Great. They shall depart, both man and beast, because the Lord is coming to bring destruction and judgment upon the whole land, not just one city, not just one town, not just one municipality. The whole of America was going to be dealt with. See, look at that, brother. Hebrew Israelite Yochanan. Iraq, Mosul is ancient Babylon. It says, they shall depart both man and beast. In those days, and this is another cue, because back then you had who? You had the kingdom of Judah in ancient Babylon. So it says here, in those days, meaning in the time of this prophecy, and in that time, saith the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah together. And this is what's happening today. This is why we have the 12 tribe sign, with all 12 tribes coming back together. All right. It says going and weeping. Why? They shall go and seek the Lord their power. Why? Because they're going to be very sorrowful for the things that they did. Seeking to Yahweh Bashem Shai. They shall ask the way to Zion with their face thitherward. Back then they weren't asking that because they knew they were Israelites. Now we're asking, we were asking the way to Zion. When we first started waking up, we were like, in awe. Like, oh shit, really? What? It says, saying, come and let us join ourselves to the Lord in a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. Why? Because the first covenant we broke and the Lord cast us off. So now the second covenant, which is going to be, which is started with Yahweh Shai shedding his blood to make the covenant in effect. Now, when the kingdom is established, the laws will be put into our inward part. That is the perpetual covenant, where we would not be forgotten, where we would not be detached from our power anymore. It says, my people have been lost sheep. Their shepherds have caused them to go astray. And this is why you have these different so-called leaders, political leaders of Jake, among the southern and northern kingdom. You have the different pastors, you have these different so-called revolutionary, leaders, all have led Israel astray. And you even have leaders that are call themselves Israelites that are leading Jake astray and ripping them off. It says they have turned them away on the mountains. And what are these mountains? That's different governments and also these different church organizations. They have gone from mountain to hill. They have forgotten their resting place. And what is the resting place? Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai and this word. The fact that they are Israelites and they've gone roaming from religion to religion. And the scriptures tell you that any new thing that come up, Jake is right there worshiping it. They'll within a matter of probably months to a year or a couple of years, they'll be a master of that religion, that newly made religion, and they'll be teaching other people how to worship in that religion. Any god newly pop up, you better believe there's an Israelite there worshiping it masterfully. All that found them have devoured them, and their adversary said, we offend not. And all these different nations, they devoured us, man. When you go into the so-called ghettos, you have Jake, if you go to this corner store, which used to be owned by certain Jakes, certain Benjamites, certain Ephraimites, the different bodegas. Now you go there, you got Moab selling you bad Chinese food. Then you have Elam and Ishmael owning all the different bodegas, all the different supermarkets, all the different liquor stores. It says, because they have sinned against the Lord, Yahweh Bashem El Shai, the habitation of justice, even the Lord, the hope of their fathers. Remove out of the midst of Babylon and go forth out of the lands of the Chaldean and be as a goats before the flocks. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country. Now this is going into the prophecy of World War III. And these great nations from the north coming together are the former Soviet Union, and included in that, could be China, and them different, Moabite countries, but mainly those different countries that broke away from the USSR, United Soviet Socialist Republic. All right. It says, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence shall she be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. And these arrows are speaking about the missiles. And ancient Babylon was not taken down that way. It was taken down that very night. You could read Daniel, the 5th chapter, and it tells you exactly how Babylon was taken down. Ancient Babylon. And Chaldea shall be a spoil. All that's spoil her shall be satisfied, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem El Shai. Yeah, because you're going to have outstanding debts. You're going to have goods that are being shipped out of here. Whatever they still sell here, going to be shipped out of here, and they're not going to have, the nations are not going to have to pay for it because this place is going to be toast. It says, because you were glad, because you rejoiced, O you destroyers of mine heritage. And they have been the biggest destroyer of our heritage, because it goes back to the fact that we supplanted them for their birthright, and they have since they got a hold of us, they have not let go. They have not stopped beating us down to the ground. And that's why you Uncle Toms out there why you always gotta talk about the white man, fuck you, man. It would be a pleasure to throw you in the pit with them motherfuckers, man. But in the kingdom all Israel shall be saved. So that won't happen. It says, because you are grown fat as the heifer at grass and bellow as bulls. Yeah, you living fat. Revelation 17 tells you that. She was clothed with purple and scarlet colored. The rich man that was fed sumptuously every day. So they've been living it up. Meanwhile, we've been at the bottom. It says, your mother shall be sore confounded. That's dealing with England. She's going to be confounded. She that bear you shall be ashamed. And they are ashamed of you, because this place has become a cesspool, moral wise and every other thing you could think of, a fucking cesspool. It says, behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness. See? And this is the hindermost of the nations. This is speaking about Babylon. This is not speaking about ancient Babylon, speaking about modern Babylon, because hindermost, when you look up that word hindermost, we got the word H319, Acharyath, which is synonymous with Arsareth, because you also have Arsareth, which is another land, which is, I believe, in the book of Deuteronomy 32. It gives you the actual Hebrew word, and this is part of it. Acharyath, which is after, part, end, issue, event, latter time, prophetic for future time, posterity, last, hindermost, because this is the final extremities of the earth. Let's see what it says in the dictionary for hindermost. Let's see if I could definition. See what pops up. Okay. Hindermost, located farthest to the rear. And when you look at the world map, America is located farthest to the rear. America is at the back of the bus. in the world, so to speak. You know, when you look at the map of the world, China, not China, Japan is called what? Land of the rising sun. So America over here, this is the Western Hemisphere. This is where the sun sets. So this is the hindermost or the furthest to the rear. So when it speaks about the hindermost of the nations, it's talking about America, Babylon the Great. Okay. So it says, your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be what? A wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. And if you want to get more understanding on that, all you got to do is read Isaiah, the 34th chapter, and it gives you the destruction that's going to happen. And it equates Esau, Edom in it, and how this land is going to be left to filthy birds and filthy creatures, you know, unclean animals. Because of the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited. And ancient Babylon is still inhabited. See, America is not going to be inhabited ever again. It's going to be a wilderness, but it shall be wholly desolate, meaning all of it, all 5,000 square miles. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at all her plagues. Why? Because this is a great country, right? You know, I mean, it's a big country. They have a great military, you know, a big military. They've done many things. They got planes and, you know, helicopters and all kind of equipment, you know, but it's going to be destroyed, and they're going to hiss at because of the plagues, because this place is going to be a plain, nothing but smoke and ashes coming up for a long time. Put yourselves in array against Babylon round about, all you that bend the bow, shoot at her, because all these nations that have missiles are going to shoot missiles at America. Spare no arrows, meaning let them all go, for she hath sinned against the Lord, because the scriptures speak about the 200 million missiles. Shout against her round about. She hath given her hand. Her foundations are fallen. Her walls are thrown down. For it is the vengeance of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Take vengeance upon her, as she hath done. Do unto her. And man, this land and these people, these Edomites, are ripe. They're ripe for destruction, man. They're ripe for Yahweh Bashem Yahushai to destroy this place, man. You know, it's overdue. You know, it's over ripened. It says, cut off the sower from Babylon, and him that handleth the sickle in the time of harvest. For fear of the oppressing sword, they shall turn everyone to his own people. And this goes good with that one in our second Ezra's, the 15th chapter, about the fearful constellation. Because they're going to be like, damn, you know, there's going to be something that they're going to be reading in the stars is going to say, nope, this is the end. It says, and they shall flee everyone to his own land. And that's what's happening. These nations that used to prosper here in America, they're going back to their country, because in their country, the economy is a lot better and more stable than it is here. Israel is a scattered sheep. The lions have driven him away. First, the king of Assyria hath devoured him, and last, this Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, hath broken his bones. And this happened at one time. But what we're reading about here in these different verses about the desolation, and it will be uninhabited. This is talking about America. But when you go back to ancient times, you did have the Assyrians and a king named Nebuchadnezzar that destroyed us, you know. But when you read through these other verses here, it's talking about America, because America is the hindermost of the nations, at the very rear. You know, it's going to be totally destroyed. The nation of Israel is coming back together, not just the tribe of Judah or the kingdom of Judah, but the kingdom of Judah and the kingdom of Israel together. This didn't happen in ancient Babylon, you know. So pretty much I'm going to leave it there. You know, there's a lot more. This is the long chapter, and it's got a lot of meat in it, you know. But it's been a various topics lesson, you know. Pray that you brothers, you know, have been edified, and shalom to the Akim on the comment boards, the water for coming on. Comment board, the waterfall, all the scriptures that your brother has been posting. So like I didn't read more of them, you know, but I was just trying to get through some of these verses, and it's already an hour that went by, you know, it just goes by quick. So with that, I pray that you brothers have been edified. Until the next time I say shalom.